Okay, it looks like I'm live and just kicking off now for the Friday live stream. Hello everyone. Thanks for tuning in. As always, I hope you can hear me okay. I hope the sound is all working. Calte, you're first in the door. Good to see you. SM Yan, good to see him. Liam, happy Fridays to you. It's warm tonight. It's very hot. So again, I'm going to keep this one brief because this is the Back to Basics week. This is us looking at some of the basics of whiskey and some of the parts of it that are often, we often delve too far into some of the nerdier stuff on here. So I've used this week as a chance for us to go back to basics. I might maintain the Back to Basics theme next week because they've been really popular and people are learning a lot of things that they may not have they've overlooked or don't often think about, which is really exciting for me because I actually get to relearn these things as well and say, maybe I've not tried this or not considered this or not remembered this and gone, there's a really cool opportunity for us to actually dig into this stuff and try a few things. How was the business meeting and beers? It was a lot of fun, thanks, Cal. The business meeting wasn't around the beers, but they had some spare beers for me, so we're working on some things with a few different places. You would have seen my post with Vintech, and then I had a meeting following that I couldn't post on Instagram. That was a closed door meeting, definitely. But there's some things which we're working on which are really exciting, and I really appreciate you following along. And Melbourne is freezing. Yeah, I've heard it was pissing down. I heard it was raining in Melbourne just an hour ago. Whiskey Saurus, Sally, Thomas, good to see you all. Thanks for tuning in. Thomas, where are you tuning in from? It must be what time is it? Where are you, Thomas? I don't think you're in Australia, are you? And J Drew joined. Good to see you. Yeah, cool. Caribbean whiskey drinker. So lots of people tuning in. Like tonight, if you just missed the opening, it's about Back to Basics this week. This is the last live stream of the week. What I have in front of me right now is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 different glasses. Different glassware for enjoying, nosing, and appreciating whiskey. I'm going to explain some of them, and tonight's theme is glassware, and how choosing the right glassware for the right whiskey makes a huge amount of difference. And why that's really important. Choosing the right glassware is really important for the right whiskey, and how to look after it maybe a little bit at the end. Some tips on maintaining your glassware, because even I'm known to smash them every so often. What did you pick up from Outturn? Cal, I got myself a bottle of the 107, the 107.18, the Happy Hypnotic one. That's fantastic. And I'm thinking about getting a bottle of Malt of the Month, because I said this earlier to someone, another member who asked me this earlier today, just after Outturn came out, and they said, Malt of the Month seems a bit slower this month. And I said, well, we've had a lot of 93s through, and maybe people have got already a few different 93s on the shelf, remembering they're always different single casks. But I guarantee you, if that number wasn't 93, if that number was 27, it would have vanished. And which I find very funny, because the Distillery 93 is almost next door to Distillery 27. It's just up the road. And if I'm being completely honest, I think the quality of the spirit they produce at both of them is extremely high. I mean, they're both producing the most amazing Campbelltown spirit, that funky, rich Campbelltown spirit. And to get a Campbelltown whiskey, a single cask Campbelltown whiskey for $1.59, that's absurd. I'm definitely getting one of those, actually. That is ridiculous. So it's just really good value to be able to get a single cask whiskey from Campbelltown for $1.59. It's a peated whiskey. I know peated whiskey's not everyone's cup of tea, but really you got to check that one out. Okay, Sable Scotch Whiskey Zach. We're talking about glassware tonight. Back to basics, talking about glassware. I can only have so many unopened 93s at once. Got to catch them all, hot dog extravaganza. You know what? But the thing is, with the 93s, yes, we've had quite a few through because they work quite closely with us. It's a great distillery. We get some great casks out of there. In fact, I've said before, 93.99 was one of my all-time favourites from last year. I think that's almost all sold out. There's only one left on the website. I'm not sure. 93.104 was fantastic. .102 was fantastic. .110 was fantastic. And I'll be honest, I've not tried the Malt of the Month one yet, but I'm probably going to get one. .104, yeah. No, I said that, didn't I? No, I got my numbers mixed up then. 106, 108, 110, 99, 92, 93. They're all fantastic. They're all just really funky, oily, syrupy, slightly peated Campbelltown lovely malts. And I think that one is one that I'm going to grab because there's still plenty left, and if you don't get them, I will. I'll tell you what, yeah, lovely sort of tarry, smoky, kind of dram, that one. A real sunset dram. I love it. I'm going to get one of those. And yeah, a 93.104 for $1.59. I think that's ridiculously good value. I think it could have been $1.79. It would have been still good value. Anyway, I've got 14 or 15 glasses in front of me here. My table's full of glassware, and I want to talk through some of them, the basics, and why some glassware is better for appreciating whiskey, and some glassware is better for drinking whiskey. Okay, I'm going to start with the one that you and I probably know best, the Society Copita. I'm going to hold each one up to the camera a bit. I'll put whiskey into some of them. I might even put a bit of whiskey into this one to start with. And in case you're wondering, I've just a bit of cork going on here. That's all right. I'm going to pour a little bit of this one out because this is exactly what I'm in the mood for. This is an older bottling, one from my personal stash of open Society bottles, 123.8 in the Spanish Mountains. I'll hold that one up there. It was a 12-year-old from distillery 123, one of my favourite distillery codes, from a port pipe, 12 years in a refill port pipe, 59.2%. It's got almost a pinkish tinge to it, that whiskey. I remember this one very well. So, Duquette Bucket joined. Good to see you, Duquette Bucket. In fact, Duquette Bucket, very funny that you're in the stream. We're talking about the Duquette Bucket at some point in the next 10-15 minutes. A question from Sable Scotch. Any new distilleries being added for 2020, Matt? For example, is Distillery 42's peated Balakin in the mix? 42s aren't peated Balakins. They're peated Tobermory. But also known as Lecheg. But yes, there are new distilleries coming in 2020, Sable Scotch. There definitely are, which is very exciting. We're going to see some new codes coming through. We saw 140 at the end of last year, which was an American whiskey, and yes, an American distillery. 141 came out last year as well, which was a Danish distillery, and we'll see 142, 143, 144, and other codes like that coming through soon as well, which is really exciting. Yeah, there's some new codes coming through, which is exciting. I always love new codes. 140.2 question mark. Yeah, we'll see some more 140s coming through. The peated Edredale. Yeah, I don't know if peated Edredale. We don't really see much Edredale through the SMWS, but if we do see some, if we see some peated Edredale, if we see some Balakin, then that might get a code to itself. Yes. It's quite funny. In the early days of the society, a lot of the spirits were all lumped into one code. Isn't like you can have peated and unpeated Bunnahabhain, and it's all under one code. But now more and more they're differentiating codes to maintain differentiation of spirit runs, like we do for Loch Lomond, and we do for other distilleries that escape my mind at this very moment. But yeah, so let me talk. I'm trying to talk about glassware. I'm getting off track here. Sorry. The Society Copita, which is the one that we use and recommend, is actually an award-winning glass for nosing and appreciating and even tasting whiskey. It's really good for nosing whiskey, though. It's got a nice bowl shape at the bottom. It was designed by the Society in collaboration with Urban Bar in the United Kingdom. It's good, but it's good for high-proof spirits. And I find that for high-proof spirits, smaller glassware, and also, in some cases, bigger glassware. I know that sounds like, covers all glassware. But depending on the shape of the glass more than the size. And that's a really good shape for high-proof spirit. And that's a lovely, lovely 12-year-old whiskey there. I'm going to leave that there for the moment, and I'll talk about some of the others that you might know or might not know. I'm going to start with one of the more iconic ones you've probably seen before, and that is, of course, the Glencairn. This one's a Craigellachie branded one. You see lots of branded versions of Glencairns. It was developed in conjunction with David Stewart over at Balvenie, who is the outgoing malt master at Balvenie. David Stewart. Am I getting his name right? Or am I having am I mixing names up here for a moment? Look, I'll come back to that. The malt master at Balvenie co-developed it with a team in the UK and they wanted to create a glass that was great for casual dramming with friends. That was like, rather than being too much of a nitpicky sort of Copita. I'll get back to that. So this is a Copita, standard XL5 Copita, good for a multitude of uses, fortifieds, whiskies, spirits, very, very versatile glass. So this was sort of like, it was a way to create a non-stemmed, more sort of like casual drinking glass without it being too much of a, not nerding out too much on it. You'll see at some of our events, at society events, you'll see the we use sometimes these, the smaller copperas. They're just like, they're slightly sort of, they're very similar bowl shape in some ways, but with longer stem to the society glass. A little bit narrower on the mid size of the glass there. So, but they're really good for event use. And I'll be honest, if we used our society copperas for all of our events, I think we'd get a whole lot more pinch than we already do. But this is like a nice sort of smaller style copper to that one. Then, of course, we've got the other society glass that we have at the moment, which is the SCS glass, the single cask spirits glass. I've used this in a few live streams. This is really good for rums, cognacs, armagnacs, and things like that. Our single cask spirits, our non-whiskey spirits. It sits up very nicely, very different sort of shape, different sort of bowl to it from the standard society glass there. I'll hold that one up a bit closer. Glencairn trademark. Every time you say Glencairn, they're sending you a bill. Yeah, I hope so. You mean a bill, or do you mean they're going to? Anyway, I'm not going to get into that. Okay. Then there's a sort of like, there's this style of glass, which I don't know what the name of it is. This one's got an Ardbeg branding on it. I would never pinch an Ardbeg glass, but I do have one. This is an Ardbeg glass, which is a sort of a small, lightweight. It's a very lightweight kind of glass, even empty. It's still, it's almost maybe half plastic, half glass or something. I don't know, but they're really good for event glasses, and again, nice little bowl to it. You want a glass that has a sort of a medium-sized opening like that, I find, and then a bit more of a medium-sized opening, a bit of a tulip, a bit of a bowl to it, so that the spirit has a bit of space to move around. The aromas get to develop and land at the nose point. If you have a glass that's too untuliped, a bit too sort of concave, if you like, a bit too V-shaped, the aromas become lost, which I'll talk about as we go along as well. That's actually a Glencairn coppeter. They can send me another bill. That's right. So that's actually they developed by the same company as Glencairn, which the name of the company is Glencairn. There you go. I said it again. It's a Glencairn coppeter. It's meant to be sort of like an alternative to a standard coppeter. I really like this glass. In fact, this one has Brookladdy brand on it, and I very graciously pinched this off Whiskey Ledger. So, Jonathan, anytime you want your glass back, you know where I live. Just come get it. That's a really nice glass. Then there's this one. I actually really like this. This is actually a really nice sort of casual dramming glass, and I think it works really well with bourbons. This is a Stotzel. It's I think a German glass company that make these. They're kind of heavyweight. They've got a nice sort of nice balance of sort of the distance between the spirit and the nose on them. Slightly bigger opening as well, so good for lower proof sort of bourbons, like 45, 46% bourbons. I really like this glass. I've only got the one, but I think it's a really lovely, different way to appreciate the spirit. I'm going to show you this one. This is actually this is a funny one. This is the 1920s professional blender's glass. Comes in a nice box. Have a look at this. The opening on that is like 3 or 4 centimeters across. Huge bowl on it. It's a circle with a hole in the top. It's a very strange glass because it's designed as a 1920s blender's glass. Now, the idea behind this is that if you have spirits at home that are old blends, and I mean like all old single malts, mostly old blends. So if you find yourself with like a 1950s bottling of like a Johnny Walker or something, or a 1960s bottle of Chivas Regal or whatever it is, these are really lovely glasses for them because they capture and swirl so much of the aroma without letting much off the top. So it's for whiskeys that are really, really like either low proof or really delicate old spirits. This glass is really good, and it is glass. It's not crystal or anything, but it's a lovely way to. I think they're about $50 or $60. They're not a cheap glass, but I really want to get one because it's just a nice little curio, and I like collecting little bits of glassware. I'll show you 2 others actually. Here we go. Here's 2. Actually, before I get to these, I'm going to answer that question. Have you used Norland glasses, and if so, what do you think of them? Really good question. I have used Norland glasses, and I don't think they've got it right. Not yet. I don't actually have one. I've used one before. I find that the lip on it's a little bit too big. It's got a thick sort of, and it's got like a thick lip on it. It's got a funny feel to it. It almost has like a plasticky kind of feel to it as well. It doesn't feel like it's entirely glass. It's like a polymer or something. And when you it's just the opening's a bit wide. I don't know. It's not really my favorite glass. It feels like you're drinking out of a toy cup, I prefer to be drinking out of a glass. Every time you say Glencairn, they should donate to the bushfire appeal. Yeah, good idea. Talk whiskey to me. Good to see you, Georgia. Hope you're well. No balloon glasses. Well, no, I don't have any balloon glasses on the table. I'll get to this in a moment, but I've got two here that are remarkably similar. Now, this little one here is usually has been called the Spyglass. S-P-A-Y, in Speyside, Spyglass. It's, again, a nice little casual sort of tulip tumbler in a way. And by the way, I really love the weighting on it because it's really hard to knock over. So if you've had a few and you're about to knock your glass over, it doesn't really tip everywhere. And it's the same with this one. This is sort of the big daddy of the two. You can see the size difference here. You can not quite almost fit them into each other, but they are sort of like a big one and a small one of the same glass there. They're good casual drinking glasses with still a bit of tulip to them. You're not losing all the aroma. The big one you are losing a fair bit. The little one's still got a lot of character though. So good as a casual dramming glass. The Duquette Bucket, also known as the real name, Spyglass. Sorry, lost my words there. So that's the Spyglass beer tulip. It's a beer glass, but it's great for high proof spirits. It's really a lot of fun with things like Heartwoods and even Society whiskies. If you have a high proof spirit, they work really well in that. In fact, I'm going to go so far as to do a side by side. We have the lovely old 123 here, and I'm going to go. Zoop. You get a much different swirl here. I'm going to create myself a lot of washing up if I do this for all of them, but yeah, no, it amplifies the nose to the point of it being almost prickly, but 59.7%, it's up there. So this is the kind of glass where high proof spirits can really sort of bounce around a bit in there. It is matte proof? Yeah. Is it matte proof? Yeah. Is this the kind of glass I'm going to smash? It's funny you say that actually, because this is it's funny I say that. Get it? No, I'm just kidding. It's funny you say that because this glass, I used to have 6 of them, I think, or 5. Yeah, I had 6 at one point. Now I've got 1. They're really easy to break. They're very, very fine glass, a very nice glass. The finer the glass is what I didn't like about the Norland. If I'm going back to that topic, I was asked on that question. This is a really fine lip on it, really lovely glass, lovely weight to it, very fine all over, so very easy to break because it's such a thin glass throughout. But I like that in a glass. I think it feels like a very quality glass when it's a nice thin, well-made construction. But it means that if you're hand washing glasses at all, or you wouldn't put a glass like this in a dishwasher, it's very susceptible to break. Almost missed. There's the Denver and Wiley. I'm sure many of you know the Denver and Wiley. It was designed in Melbourne by Denver and Wiley, the two guys who I've met. Lovely blokes. I know Denver quite well, so shout out to Denver if you're watching. This one it's got a fair bit of weight to it, and it's good again for casual drinking. As you can see, it's got a full-handed tumbler. That one, nice sort of medium-sized opening, and a nice way to enjoy a good whiskey in it as well. Scotch whiskey, Australian whiskey, bourbon, whatever. It's got a lot going for it. It's got a lot of and it comes in a lovely tube, which I don't think I have anymore. But yeah, it's a really lovely way to enjoy whiskeys again in a more casual basis, whilst not sacrificing any aromas. They're about $50 as well, or 50, 55, I don't know. So, and then of course I've shown you that one. What I want to show you is the kind of glass that, for nosing and appreciating whiskey, I would want to avoid. Now that's something like this. This is a big, classic, old school, like rocks tumbler. It's got a nice fine lip on it. It's a nice glass, don't get me wrong, but it's just like, it's very heavy. It's like 50% glass. It's that big sort of American style rocks tumbler sort of glass, and it's just not. If you want to throw some whiskey, some bitters, some sugar, some orange into it, and make yourself an old fashioned or something, with a glass like this, perfect. If you just hit whiskey on ice, perfect. For nosing and appreciating whiskey, where do you position your nose? It's just the opening's way too big. There's no swirl point in the glass. It just sort of bounces around in there. So for those who are wondering, I've just been looking at 14 different glasses in front of me, and of course a whiskey jug there as well. Of ways to appreciate and try different glassware for different occasions. You'll find through your own research at home with this kind of glassware, you'll find you appreciate different spirits in different glasses. Some glasses, like on the table, including, now I've lost it. How have I done that already? Anyway, there it is. Including some glasses like the SCS glass, which is a slightly smaller version of a Bormioli. This is a Lehman French glass. The Society SCS glass is designed for single cask spirits, just like the 1920s glass. Blender's glass is designed for old school delicate blends. Some glasses are designed for a purpose. Others are sort of just designed for casual dramming and enjoyment, or the classic coppeter, which is always good for good drinking. Let me grab some of these comments and questions here. Duquette Bucket, yes. Agreed about the Northern glass, but do find it brings a different taste. Better, who knows that, depending on the drink. Yeah, it can bring a different taste, and that's right. Different glasses can bring a different aroma. They unlock different aromas in different whiskies, in different spirits, and in different scenarios. And I find that I love experimenting with that and finding ones which I particularly like. But what I like often changes. I'll be completely honest with you whilst I'm here. I love the Society glass because, I work for the Society, but I do love the glass. But it's not often my every single day kind of dramming glass. So I like to experiment and jump around. What I particularly don't like much these days, if I'm being completely honest with you, I don't find the Glencairn one of my favourite whiskey drinking glasses. It's good in a casual environment. It's not really quite an appreciator's glass. I find it's really good for, again, if you're having a few friends around and pouring a few whiskies, it's good to have a box of these, but it's not really my favourite in terms of whiskey drinking, whiskey appreciating glasses. I like to differentiate between appreciating and drinking. And appreciating means often you might be nosing that whiskey for 20, 30, 40 minutes and writing tasting notes on it and whatnot. And other times it's just good old-fashioned whiskey drinking. So where can we get these unique glassware? Cal, it's a case of jumping around and just doing a bit of research and finding them. All sorts of glassware can be found everywhere. I recommend hitting up the Oak Barrel in Sydney, Nick's in Melbourne. Of course, the Society website, we have our 2 glasses. I recommend just bouncing around. You can get Glencairns anywhere. I found things like that one in Victoria's basement, which is like a big cookery sort of like kitchenware store. I found which one was it? Oh, things like this. I found something like that in David Jones. You just keep an eye out for glassware. Actually, some of the glassware I've had over the years, I find some great glassware. Here's a little tip for you. If you want to find weird and wacky glassware that might be a different experience for whiskey and other spirits, just check out some of the op shops. You can find some great glassware, and I found some great coppeters. There's some really lovely crystal coppeters for $1 each in an op shop once. So it doesn't happen very often. You don't always find the best stuff in op shops, but you might find something in there. Do you have a standard glass of your assessing? Something that's an even playing field so you compare one dram to the next? Yeah, it's a really good question, Lamb. A standard glass for assessing would be something like our SCS glass or a Bormioli, which is ever so slightly bigger. I like an assessment glass to be something with a small opening and a fair bowl. I wouldn't use a glass like that for assessment because it's just a massive aroma. It might throw you out a bit. For purely assessment and adding water to and assessing, something like that, I use the SCS glass a lot for that. I know we designed it for non-whiskey spirits, but I find it works great with whiskey as well because it's a very neutral glass. It doesn't have a massive bowl, doesn't have a massive concave, doesn't have any sort of weird sort of like it's not a casual dramming glass. It's a very simple way of assessing whiskey through a glass like that. I used the last one. Use them with friends and glad they aren't crap. Yeah. There you go. Will there be a SNWS branded blenders glass in the future? Wink, wink. Richie, never rule it out. Never rule it out. There's some cool ideas that we're working on. I don't know about the blenders glass, but hey, I'm sure we could work something out. Second last one, yeah, sure. Whiskey Yuzmo, good to see you. So what is your everyday dram glass? There's no such thing for me, Cal. There's no such thing as everyday dram glass. For me, it goes on mood and whiskey. If I'm picking up a whiskey that's distilled in the 1970s, I might want to try something like that glass with it. I'm not going to break any glasses on this live stream, I promise. It might be a glass like that for our for an old whiskey. It depends. For everyday dramming, I don't really have an everyday dramming whiskey either. It's always sort of picking out a different single cask, picking out something interesting, picking out something that it might sometimes be a gin, it might sometimes be a whiskey, it might sometimes be a cocktail, it might be something else. There's never an everyday drammer glass for me. I like to jump around depending on mood. Am I drinking or am I assessing? Thoughts with glassware on pewter on the base. I don't really have any. Look, I like crystal glassware. Crystal glassware is lovely as long as it's not lead based. You can find some lovely crystal Glencans. If it's what floats your boat and so it does the right thing. I'm not really fussy when it comes to I'm fussy when it comes to glassware, as you can tell. But if it's glass or crystal, or if it has nice engraving or things like that, I don't really care for that. I find that I like my glassware to be practical, and I wouldn't say no to crystal glass. I'm saying, but it's like I'm more interested in the accessibility and usability of that glass. I'm way too practical a person to worry about whether it's got some nice engraving in the base and things like that. It's or pewter or crystal made or whatever. So that's where we're up to at the moment. I want to talk to you about tonight a bit about glassware and do a back to basics, and that covers about the half hour that we've been going for. So I'm going to enjoy the rest of this 128 now that I've poured it into the Duquette Bucket or Spyglass. You can pick these ones up from David Jones and places. They're a nice beer tulip, equally good for beer as they are for whiskey. So there are some great glasses that are good for both. Otherwise, as I said, what I might do is I might nose that in that glass. I'm going to go back into my society glass and enjoy it how it's meant to be enjoyed. Radically different, so much different straight away. Like that one, just like the ethanol sort of prickles right at the top of the nostril because there's so much aromas coating the edges of that glass. This one contains it a bit more and makes you sort of dig in a bit deeper to it. Works both ways. Lovely. Back to basics rant on Monday. How do I incorporate back to basics and my classic Monday rant into one stream? There's got to be a way to do it, and I'll think about it over the weekend. As always, thanks a heap for the little 1% that changed our experience with whiskey. Appreciate it, Whiskey Zach. Look, every little bit counts. It's like my opinion is like, if you're spending $200, if you're spending $150 or $200 or something dollars on a good bottle of whiskey, you want to have a nice glass to appreciate it in. You don't want to just pour it straight into a tumbler that looks cool but doesn't actually deliver the full experience. And that's the important thing about the glassware, is picking out what suits you and what suits that whiskey. And sometimes, and I've got a fairly big nose, but other people will have smaller noses or different noses and different nose shapes and stuff. So they might not like one glass over the other. They might find like the opening's too small or something like that. And the appreciation of such changes as a result. Maybe a 2020 SMWS swag update. It might be a bit too early for that. T. Demetrio joined. T. Demetrio, I'm sorry, we're just finishing up, but thanks for tuning in. You can watch this live stream up on the stories. Just click stories on Instagram. It stays up for 24 hours. If you don't get a chance, however, to watch the full thing, you can watch it on our YouTube channel, which is just Scotch Malt Whisky Society Australia. Search it on YouTube. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel, because the more we can put up there, the more we can entertain and educate through great whiskey and great spirits. Happy Outturn Day, everyone. I hope you picked up a few things. Outturn's active right now. Plenty of great bottlings left. I think only 2 or 3 casks have completely sold out today, but there's still a few more on the site to really investigate, and I'm going to get one of those 93 104s for myself. I'll see you all Monday. Have a great weekend. Happy Fridays to you all. Hope you're imbibing on some lovely whiskies, and I'll see you all Monday. Cheers.